And you could be jump in, man.
Listen. It's a pleasure to be here with y'all today, and we're just coming to have a discussion, drop some knowledge, and hopefully receive some knowledge as well. Today, we're talking about the corporate mentality, or what I like to call it, the slave mentality.
Mm.
Okay. Now, before you guys start sending me comments, jumping in the box, you know what I'm saying, destroying me, how dare you compare this to slavery? You're getting paid. Just listen to the whole show so you can understand kind of where we're coming from. Of course, we don't take the subject of slavery lightly. We know how devastating it was in history. We don't take it lightly. So with that precursor in place, I'm gonna be using the word a lot. So y'all better get used to it for this episode. Okay. All right. Just get used to it for this one. Just this one right here. Okay. And what we're talking about here is the fact that, as children, we're taught that we should go through life spending the first, what, minimum 22, 23 years of our life uh, being indoctrinated, right? What I call educated, but I really call it indoctrinated with certain things to make us good workers, right? What's the end goal of all that is so we could get a good job.
Mm.
Okay. Now we want to I want to, let me speak to myself today. I want to push back on that a little bit because I think that's one of the most detrimental things that happens to us. As a young child, I was told, just work hard, go through school, get a good job, get a nice 401k, a nice pension plan, a nice something like that. And you'll be all right, right? Coming from a Ghanaian African household, whether you've probably heard this before, whether you're from an Indian household, you'd be a doctor. Whether you're from a Ghanaian household, look at him, huh? He's a lawyer, oh my child, huh? Oh, he's a businessman. He works for Capital One, huh? All right, I don't know what other cultures are out there, but you guys know this, right? But the part that they don't explain and the part that these scared minds don't really speak to is the freedom aspect of it. Right now, we're in a situation where that's more important, more clear than ever, where it is not just the 8 hours or 9 hours or 10 hours or sometimes 12, 13 hours a day that I'm giving you. Now I got to give you my body. I got to give you my mind. I got to give you everything. See, what we have to understand is that these contracts that we sign, they derive from indentured servitude. Okay, you are giving up your power when you sign those contracts. And don't get me wrong, before I pass this over to you guys, my friends, so you can chime in on this. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with work. There's nothing wrong with a job. We're made to work, right? We are made to move. We're made to be productive. We're made to work. But we're not made to be slaves or indentured servants. We're not. We're simply not. And at some point in time, when you work in that job and you just feel so empty, you feel like a lack of purpose. And trust me, if you don't create one, they will feed you one. If you don't create your own sense of purpose, if you don't create your own goals, if you don't create your own vision, they will create one for you. And it might be helpful. It might be nice. You might be a highly paid servant or a highly paid slave, right? But I've seen lawyers and doctors and whatnot. Highly paid servants, golden handcuffs. Ever heard that term?
Absolutely.
Right? They're putting in hours and hours and hours just to feed the monster, to feed the institution. Right? You ever see any of this? I was just recently watching a show on Netflix. I just keep something in the background here, and they always have this like little glob of like whatever it was, of like craziness, just like, oh, it's like they're feeding the glob. I don't know if you guys have seen this. It's like a theme in a few of these Netflix shows. It's like a glob. That's what I think about. You're feeding the institution, the glob, the little thing that's like bubbling for some reason. It's so gross. I hate that stuff. I always skip that part. It's so nasty to me. But what's going on, guys? Chime in here. What is going on? Why do we fall victim to this? Why is it important to generate our own economy? right? Why is that critical? Whether you consider yourself a traditional entrepreneur or not, you are, because you sign away your power in an indentured servitude. That's what you're doing, regardless of if you're being paid millions or not. Because if you're an NFL athlete or not, oh, great example, right? Look at athletes. If you've ever read Million Dollar Slave, look at an athlete. They're getting paid millions of dollars, so they shouldn't complain, right? They don't have any rights because they're being paid. They don't get to dictate what they do with their body because they're being paid. The money is in the control, right? The money is for the control, so they can control you. You see this both in families that have money, and you also see this in corporations. They give you a lot of money because they make a lot of money off of you. Ain't nobody giving you more money than you are producing for them. That is dumb. They're not going to do that. Go ahead, brothers. Y'all laughing. Y'all know I can go forever, man. Chime in here before I keep going.
You could go forever. I could go forever on this topic, right? Like, man, this is a great opening, and I don't even know which way to actually take it because there's so much that I actually want to say about it. I used to shy away from this conversation. All honesty, transparency. I used to shy away from this conversation because I've been pro entrepreneur for a very long time, to the point where I used to always say, and you kind of gave that, disclaimer caveat of like, there's nothing wrong with having a job, right? You said that could be, and I have to hedge myself to say the same things as well, because I went so far on the other side of like, is it really good to have a job? Like, is it okay? Like, really? Like, are we just saying that to be politically correct, to like make a certain demographic of people not feel bad that they have a job, knowing that we've all had jobs, right? I didn't just come out the womb becoming an entrepreneur, but got a different level of education, got privy to information, got a different perspective about life, started wanting new things. So then I started to shift kind of how all of these things were playing. And when we really boil things down, a large part of our life is around our work. A large part of how we think about where we spend time, what we do, is around what we choose to do for work. And so if you take that out of the middle, if you take that out of like, okay, if work is like the center of everything, what if I don't want work to be the center? What if I want my health to be the center? What if I want my family to be the center? What if I want something else to be the center of options? And once I got that piece of information, I really went to this of like, be an entrepreneur. Like, there is not a good reason to have a job. Like, and again, as I say it, I hear other people out there saying like, well, everyone can't be an entrepreneur. Like somebody has to be a worker. Like people have to, or what we kind of touched on in the pregame is like, no, but my job treats me great. But my job, no. You guys don't know. My job is amazing. It's the best thing I could have ever asked for in my life, right? Like I hear people saying those types of things and kind of missing that message of what we're going to dive into even more, which is just do you have ownership over your life? Like you said, Kobi, if you're not fulfilled, if you feel that emptiness, if this job, this thing that you choose to do to get a paycheck is bringing you health issues, it's bringing you sleep issues, things that you see on a daily basis, right? Not giving you, if these are things that will impact your life in a real negative way, like years off your life, the whole nine, it would make sense to change those things. And what I know Kobi and I and Stu, we were talking about in the pregame, but what we'll dive deeper into is why is that hold on us? If you're looking at your life and you see 4 out of the 5 areas are not progressing, and it's all because of this job, God bless you. If it's all from this job, why are we so stuck at not changing that job, not getting rid of that? Why can't we break away from that? That's the questions that we're going to dive into, because I think that really ties into people getting to that place of being able to live a good life, to own their economy, to own their income, to own all the stuff around them. the job can be a hindrance, and in my opinion, right, is a hindrance for most people to get there. So
Yeah, I think really where I want to start is chronologically. So you mentioned how do we get to this, you know, ideology? How did this become so prevalent? And I think you guys kind of touched on it with education. But before I even go down that chronological route, what I do want to address is something, Chris, that you said. Like, I also do not think it's necessarily bad to have a job, as long as you're being completely honest with yourself about whether or not it's serving you in the ways you want to be served, if it aligns with your priorities, if it aligns with your morals and ethics, which is something could be talked about in the pregame. If you prioritize ownership over your life, then don't get a job. Unless like you're trying to build to something and you're willing to put in a little bit of time in order to have the experience in order to become an entrepreneur. Because every single one of us on here, like was mentioned earlier, had a job at one point. I would not be a tenth as good at what I do now if it wasn't for all of those professional corporate experiences that I went through. So it's a choice, but you got to be honest with yourself. If you're prioritizing money and you're okay sacrificing control over your time, you're okay having somebody tell you when you can take vacation, when you can go home to your family, when you can hit the gym, when you can do anything. Cool, go ahead. If you don't like that stuff, stick with the job. Unfortunately, most people I know that have a job always bitch about their job though. I really don't know a lot of entrepreneurs that bitch about being an entrepreneur. Like it is what it is. Like it's either a good season or it's not a good season, but either way, you're happy to be there. That's not how I hear people talk about their job. In
I
fact,
think it,
well,
yeah, go,
I think one of the most common expressions I hear in construction management is the most sarcastic, monotone, and just deflating expression of like, "Hey, what's up, man? How you doing? Oh, I'm just, living the dream, bro. Having a great time. Wow, thanks for killing the fuck out of my energy." Every single day, this would happen. This actually came up earlier today with a couple of buddies of mine. You hear that expression, it's the worst. It's the worst. It's like you're telling me the American dream is to be depressed and sarcastic and pretending to have fun at this opportunity that you don't even want to be at. Whew, that's heavy. So I don't know, Chris, you go ahead and hop in before I jump into the how we got
no, no, I kind of lost whatever I was gonna say to you on that one. Um, but yeah. Anyway, on IG, hope I say your name right. Vesneda
Vesna.
Vesni Vesni. She said, any tips for assessing when the job is too much part of the personal identity? Thank you for that question. Um, Gentlemen, anybody want to jump in on that? I have my 2 cents, but if anybody wanted to jump in.
Yeah, I think sorry, all you boss.
No, you got it. I was gonna say actually, I would love to hear the chronological piece before we hop to the question here. If we can hold that question,
Oh,
I don't want to get too far thrown off.
For a second.
Yeah, that'd be great because there's
question, Desmond. We will definitely
yeah.
figure it out.
There you go. Yeah. I'll hit that chronological piece here because you know what I'm saying, I had to cut myself short, so we got a lot of fire to drop today. You know what I mean? Let's get it. Let's go.
All right, so chronologically, we got to this place where not everyone, the vast majority of people I've encountered, at least in the US, have the notion that you have to be an employee. And we got into this place because the entire time you begin your education process, you are taught, like, hey, get the good grades so you can get into a good college. The entire time you're in college, it's get the good grades so you can get hired by a great, amazingly big company. Huge. You want the biggest company, you want the biggest name, you want the most reach, because you want people to know when I work for Deloitte, I work for Skanska, I work for whatever it is. You want people to understand that as soon as you say that name, it's like, oh, this guy means business. But what you're not mentioned at all is how to actually generate your own economy, how to become an entrepreneur, how to actually go out there and make money on your own outside of the system. Because guess what? You don't even need a GED to do that. Sorry, you don't.
Right.
So that is how, in my opinion, we got to this place, man. And parents are kind of guilty of that too. And I really look forward to seeing what happens now that we got the internet, now that COVID happened, and a lot more entrepreneurs are popping up and freelancers. Curious to see how they raise their kids, myself included, to help let them know that you don't have to do that, man. You're going to be told that a lot when you go to this establishment if I don't homeschool you. But
that's why I'm taking control. But like, to be honest, guys, like that's it. Like my daughter will know that she has more than just two options when she chooses to graduate high school. If she chooses to graduate high school, I said that right. If she chooses to graduate high school, I really believe that just like 70 years ago in our country, a kid would get to work at 13 because they had enough education, they could read and write, they were good to go. Let's get into the workforce and let's build this thing. I believe we're getting back to that time because kids have information at their hands and can learn a lot quicker. And so I think that like we're gonna my daughter's 4. In 15 years, we're gonna be debating whether or not that kid needs to go to 12th grade. I think we're gonna debate that in 15 years, absolutely, because there's gonna be too much that they could go off and do that's not predicated on them going to college, right? Like the whole system can change. So I'm looking forward to that type of stuff.
Chris, I'm looking forward to that as well. And I'll say this, I'm not holding out hope on what other people are doing, because what I've learned is that people love to be comfortable. They love to be comfortable. They love to stay with the status quo, and things that are out of that realm of comfortable, of what is known, people buck at. Right? I live this every day. Okay. And I'll say this: how did we come here? Let's give up. Let's listen, man. Y'all know, former history teacher here. History, my first love. I always like to put context to some of these things because it helps us understand these aren't just things that are just like happening willy woo, right? No, they didn't. They were designed to happen that way, okay? And our parents only know what they know because it's been going on for so long. But there was a period in time where your father, your mother, right, was X, right, and would teach you X. Or you would go out, and if you didn't want to do what your father or your mother did, you would go get what? An apprenticeship, okay? And you would learn at a young age how to craft, right? Isn't this what Ben Franklin did, right? All of these things. This was a way of life until what? Until the bubbly things, these corporations are mega corporations that are continue to grow, continue to do what? To change how we think and how we do things, starting with what? The father of all of this, right? The great Rockefeller, great in quotations, okay? and so much so that not only did he kill the modern health system as we know it, we'll go into that another episode of The Good Life. I think it's incredibly important to know that the modern health system as we know it was systematically killed, right? Not just that, he also systematically killed or systematically helped to craft, right, our education system as we know it. And the school board, right? What did he say? One of his famous quotes said what? I don't want a nation full of thinkers. I want a nation full of what? Workers, right? And we ain't talking about the type of workers we thinking about, talking about indentured servants. So it's no wonder that we go through 12 years plus of education. And what do you end up with? You hardly ever I didn't come out of high school with like a scale. Yeah, you learn to read and write, but bro, you could learn and read and write with a tutor. Okay? You don't need to go to Rockefeller indoctrination to learn to read and write. And that's all you really need to do. And in fact, you don't even need to read or write to do certain jobs, okay? I hate to say it. I'm not, what do you mean? You want the world to be dumb and illiterate? Like it's helping them anyway, right? Listen, we'll go for that for another day. That's another point. But let's not overlook the fact that it was been systematically designed to take the brain out of your head. I don't know what they replace it with, right? A whole bunch of indoctrinations, a whole bunch of nonsense, a whole bunch of stuff that we then just agree on. And guess what? It's the reality agreement. We agree on this stuff as it is. We agree on history, that George Washington was such a great man. We agree on all this BS, right? And then we go into the workforce and become little robots, not even robots, little like zombies, right? Or big zombies for some folks, big zombies, and we buy into these systems. I've worked with these people, man. It's incredible. They don't even think for themselves, not even a little bit. Not even a little bit, man. I'm telling you, it's mind-boggling. I'm sitting next to folks, and I'm like, bro, like, why are you so freaking loyal to your master, dog? Like, why? Like, yeah, you should be a good employee. You should be good at whatever you're doing. Yes, let's throw that out the door. That's not what we're talking about. Okay, I'm talking about you thinking for yourself. Okay, these people don't think for themselves. I was sharing this. I got two stories for you, and then y'all get ready to chime in. I was sharing this about one of my previous corporate contracts that I was fulfilling, and I was there, and pretty much every single one of these situations I've been in, I look left, I look right, I look up, I look down, and I don't see a single person I want to be like. Not a one. Not a one. Why do I say that? It's always something, right? The job or the obligation they're fulfilling dominates their life. So much so that their home life is terrible. They don't have a relationship with their kids. They don't have a relationship with their family. They can't really move like they want to move. They can't live like they want to live. And they think it's all okay. Oh, it's just my job. I got to do my job. Stu, you hit on this. I got to just do my job. And what's so interesting, man, is like when it gets to places where your job, what you're being asked to do by your master, literally comes to head with your morals and your ethics and what your gut is telling you. Most of the atrocities that have been committed on this earth, my friends, are not just individuals that's going out rogue. They're institutions that are giving commands and demands and instructions to workers to commit atrocities. Okay? Most people that end up getting shot or dead or whatever it's not just random, right? If you want to consider the stuff like criminal stuff on the street, that's like pales in comparison to what? To mass atrocities that people carry out. And they carry these out or orders. And what do we say? Well, you can't really blame him. He was just doing his job. I have a problem with that. I have a massive problem with that because just doing your job led to all of these atrocities that we're talking about. What if you didn't do your job? What if you said, nah, that's not what I'm about? What if enough people said, nah, that's not what I'm about? What if enough people said, nah, I don't care how many dollars you give me. I'm not going to do that. Right? But we've justified it so it's okay. Oh, well, he was just doing his job. Bump all that noise, man. That don't sit right with me. I'm not about that. That don't sit right with me. And it makes no sense. That is not justification for committing things that go against your gut. And so many people are doing that on a day-to-day basis, right? So many people our skills are being used, whether you're talking about the military, whether you're talking about certain companies, whether you're talking about so many people are using their skills for things they don't believe in, for things they wouldn't stand behind, for things that if they were on the receiving end of it would be completely wrong. I think that's complete. What is the worst type of poop that's out there? That's what I think this is. I think that's complete nonsense, bro. And we okay this. We okay this. That's what kills me. We okay this. Nah, it's not okay. Not just that. I remember one situation I walked out of a corporate contract, right? And the master said to me was like, I don't look me in the eye, dead in the eyes. This was after we was all laughing and cool and whatever, right? It was cool till then. So I was like, listen, man, I don't know if I can really do this. It's not really vibing with me. Like, like da 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 da, blah blah blah. He's like, I don't think you understand what a contract is. I said, mother picker up. No, I don't. What you mean by that? You gonna force me to do this? Oh, God forbid. I wish you would. I left that office having a realization of what that contract read. That's when I started my research. right? I left that meeting being like, oh, so you think you own me after I signed over for what? 43,000? I believe it was 43,000. What this man didn't know is I was pulling in 43,000 doing other things. I pulled that in real quick, pulling in 43,000. Look me in the face, thinking you own me because of 43,000. You a fool, right? Get out of here. So I was there, but see, listen, I my gut always told me, bro, you gotta keep cooking on the side, man. Keep cooking on the side. Keep cooking on the side. Keep cooking on the side. Don't keep cooking on the side. 43,000, bro. I had that just sitting there. So I had no trouble being like, no, I'm good. And then when he acted that way, I said, oh, no, I'm really good. I'm really, really good, right? Tore up that contract right in front of him, walked out the door, never went back, all right? Listen, it's incredibly important to generate your own contract, your own economy for so many reasons. Otherwise, we end up in these situations where you got to feed your family, so you're doing things you don't want to do. You're hurting people you don't want to hurt. You're hurting the environment you don't want to hurt. You're doing all types of nonsense you don't want to do. And like, yeah, it's not that bad. Yeah, but if enough people do it's not that bad, then we end up in a shitty world. Go ahead.
There we go, right?
I love it after every one of these, bro. Hell yeah. So I don't even know where to start. Chris, what you got?
I mean, at the end of the day, right? That summed up a lot of what we believe and what we're talking about anyway. The thing that always comes to mind when we have these conversations about slavery and the job is that quote from Harriet Tubman that says, "I freed thousands of slaves. I would have freed thousands more if they would have known they were slaves." Right? And that quote always resonates with me when we start having this conversation about employee-minded people. I've shifted my language to say it in that form so that we can get away from attacking people with jobs. Because I'm telling you, even people listening to this, you have a job, you feel attacked when someone tells you that you're working on a plantation, right? Like that you have a slave mentality, like you feel attacked. So I understand it. But it is a mindset, the employee mindset, right? When we give that up, when we give up that freedom for the paycheck, for security, just like Kobi said, why are we willing to break our morals, break things that aren't us, just for that paycheck, just for that money? And that's something, again, we have to dive into. We have to really get to understand. I do want to get to Vesna. I want to get to Vesna's question since she's been waiting patiently. Thank you for tuning in. Again, any tips for assessing when the job is too much part of the personal identity? I would be real curious to go deeper with you and find out like what actually is the job, and then what part of your identity is attached to that job. But in general, if you didn't respond, I would say that like just paying attention to the skill set that is underlying the job title, right? The job title isn't necessarily your identity. And if it is, you have to realize that it's just the title, right? It's just the title. But the skill set, what you feel you're doing, the impact you're making at that job, underneath that title, that is more the identity you want to connect with. Are you serving people? Is it about leadership? Is it about just being a great technician, or like whatever it is that you do, that you're a hairdresser, so like that's my thing. Whatever it is, find the underlying right, just the underlying skill set, the underlying value that's attached to that job title. And I think if you lean in towards that, it'll be a lot easier for you. So you guys,
I want to piggyback on that real quick. I think this is a mistake a lot of folks make. And I spoke a little earlier on the pregame about individuals thinking that they are owners when they're actually servants. Okay. And I think it's incredibly important to realize that. Again, I want to start with the caveat of saying Be great at everything you do. Great. Now let's put that aside. Okay. But at the same time, defining yourself by your indentured servitude makes no sense. It makes no sense, because what if you get fired from that? What if you decide you don't want to do it anymore? What if you decide you want to leave? That's when you start to run into an identity crisis of like, part of you is like being torn, or part of you is like being, and that makes no sense, because that's not your identity. You just chose to do that job or take that contract and fulfill that contract for a period of time. Okay. So you going internal, right, and figuring out who you are first and foremost, and what you choose to give your time to is totally different. Now, there used to be a time where, you know, identity and like and what you were doing was tied together, and I think those were they were kind of, you know, we should take another look at that. Why? Because there was pride in that craft and what you did. I'm a shoemaker. I make the best shoes on the East Coast. I have pride in what I do, right? We've lost that. We've lost that. I'm a farmer, right? Not only do I grow the best crops to feed my family, but they're so good that I actually go ahead and trade it off for other people to give me something back in value in return, right? I think it's incredibly important. Your contract that you sign to do something for a company for a short period of time is in no way, shape, or form your identity. So you got to go back to the drawing board, in my opinion. And I'm kind of speaking generally here, not to any in particular individual, but you got to go back to the drawing board and first create your own mission statement, create your own purpose, create your own values and principles that you stand for, and write it down. Like, write it down in a place that you can easily access. Write it down every day. Right? Part of my journaling routine is I rewrite my principle, my mission statement every day. What are my values? What are the things that I stand for? Because I am my own corporation. Me here, that's it. Whether I decide to merge with another corporation or do business with another corporation or an institution, that's just a decision I make. But me, individual, I am, and I merge with my partner, and we create a bigger institution, right? And that's the family. See, we've stepped away from that, like pretty significantly. So I think you know, it's a great question, and one that hopefully, you know, what we have to offer here was provide some clarity.
I love how, as you were talking, she actually had that little follow-up there about the fact that she was actually laid off. Right as you said, you could get fired. So it was the timing there was very interesting. And Vesna, my kind of holistic approach to this question is, you know, when people think of who you are, and when you think about who you are, is the first thing that comes to mind the job you do? And if it's the first thing that comes to mind, is it something that is directly in line with what you're passionate about and what your mission statement is, to tap into what Kobi's saying? I know people that are extremely proud to be some type of doctor or healer or personal trainer, because that directly taps into what they love to do and the impact they love to have on the world. So if you, and I think another way to think about it is, if somebody was to leave something on your tombstone, would you be okay with this thing being the majority of your identity? I sold shoes at, this place, or I was in retail here. Like, is that what you want people to think about when they think about you? Or do they want to think about you as, the family man, the community builder? Or is it something where your job is of such a great passion to you that you can really lean into that? So I think if you feel like, when you think about yourself and you place this label of the job there, if that seems to be the majority of your identity and you're not in line with your passion, I would say that it's a little bit too far. It's a little bit too associated with your personal identity, because you do not represent that mission. Great question. Thank you very much and I'm glad you're getting some great feedback out of this. Hell yeah. So
great
thank you very
question.
much for asking the question, Vesna. You always pose the best ones.
Great question. And there was a couple others further back. Y'all know I don't pay too close attention, so y'all
Yeah, it
keep
was
me on track here.
JD Moore. He said, talking about college, he was saying how Lupe Fiasco said something that opened his eyes. He said skills, both hard and soft, is something you can't replace, and college is great for that if there is intent and purpose. And he asked for our thoughts. And I was reading that earlier, and I think the intent and purpose is key. If you are going to college as a way to trial and error different types of social settings and cultures and like meet people and build your soft skills, or really lean into something that you want to take off with your career, cool. Just understand that there's a cost with that, and you're going to have to pay that cost out for a long time.
And that's the word
I see Chris struggling. Go ahead, Chris.
No, it's just that'd be the last reason I would go to college. That's just like
that was like one of the top reasons for me, bro.
I know, that's what I'm saying. That's the worst reason.
Yo, I see Chris here going, God, I don't want to do this.
We're trying to do this on the good life, bro. We got different perspectives all the time. Chris, what you got? What you got?
My opinion, bro. In my opinion, if you are just going to get into social settings and party and learn the environment and shake hands and do that, like, don't pay money to go do that. That doesn't make any sense. Like, you could go do that anywhere. I would never pay money to do that. Like, the intent, again, I resonate with the comment. It is about the intent. But the intent specifically should be, you need the degree, right? Like, you need the degree to get to the thing. You're a doctor, you're a lawyer, like, you need the degree. You have to have it. That reason. Or you want to be in a great network, so you choose to go to a top 10% branded college, right? There's really a lot to be said about you go to Yale or you go to Stanford and the network of people that you could be around. Those two reasons, you need the degree, or it's really about a top 10% network that you really just want to be around and want to continue to pursue. Those are the two reasons to go. Outside of those two reasons, the same experience you would pay $50,000 for at a college, you can take $10,000 and go overseas and get the exact same thing and possibly a richer experience just without the book education. You would still be able to experience new cultures, get around new people, right? You can use that same exact monies if it's just about culture and just about, right, like living life and take 15 grand and go live your life. It will be far less than paying a 4-year tuition to piss it off to get a sociology degree or, right, some arts degree just because you had fun in the dorms and got to party. Like, that makes no sense.
Chris coming for the juggler. Chris coming for the juggler right now. He coming. Headshots. Pop,
Zero.
pop, pop.
I love you, Stu.
Listen.
Oh, no. Well, let me make something very clear. I went for an engineering degree. So I could afford to walk out with something that would serve me in so many different types of ways. Because you touched on a good point. If you're going to go and get a degree that's not going to get you past some type of barrier in life that you want to get past, yeah, he's absolutely right. Like, just go travel the world and party, and all you got to do is worry about cover charges. Don't even worry about that. So, yeah, I mean, the intent is huge, and I think all three of us in this room, if I had to do it again, I would not have gone to college. So I'll leave it at that. But it was a good time.
It was a good time. Stu, I love you, man. I really appreciate you. I will say this, 1000% agree with both of you, actually, because I think you're in a way kind of saying something similar, but maybe a slightly different way. And let me explain why. Hindsight is a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing, right? So I can sit here right now and 18, 17-year-old and talk to 18, 17-year-old me and be like, listen, what are you doing? 2 reasons you should go. That's it. Okay. Totally agree. And I agree with those specific 2 reasons as well. Right. I would actually say not even top 10%, top 5%. Real talk. Right. I don't even think, I think they're starting to really separate like everything else, where the top, like literally 10 schools,
Right.
right? Literally the top 10 schools are worth going to, even if you get a sociology degree for the network, right? The rest, unless you need to get over these man-made barriers, and we can have that talk another thing, because they are man-made barriers, right? They are definitely man-made barriers to make these lawyers and doctors seem like something they're not. But that's a conversation for another thing. Frauds. Anyway, listen. But I say that because if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do, right? But what I want to point to is, when you're at that 17-year-old senior or 18-year-old senior, you've been indoctrinated, right? You've been indoctrinated to think that that is what you should do. College by all means, okay? And guess what? It's at the best interest for that high school for you to go to college. It's the best interest for that college for you to go to college. It's the best interest for your parents for you to go to college, socially, right? And on some levels for them psychologically or whatever, right? So everybody around you is pushing for this, right? So you gotta have some big cojones, okay? You gotta have like dodgeball size cojones to be like, listen, I'm gonna do something different. That's why so few people do it. So I'm not even blaming the student that's out here. I'm not putting the blame on them, right? If I can sit down with any student, and listen, I say this because I'm the oldest of 5. I'm having these conversations with my siblings, and I've been having them for a while. What I realize is that, like, they just don't hear you. Mm-hmm. They don't hear it. They don't hear what you're saying. The college counselor is telling them you got to go to college. The teachers are telling them you got to go to college. They're getting all types of praise from going to college. Even those that have no business going to college, right? They're going around doing photo shoots for freaking sports teams. Right? And they get clout for that, right? I see it all the time. The students I used to work with that are here taking all types of pictures, going to all these branded colleges, and they get all types of love. Oh, shoot, he got an offer from Clemson. Oh, my God, he got an offer from blah, 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 right? Your parents are pushing for you to go to college, whether they're going to pay for you or not. You understand what I'm saying? So, Chris, I definitely agree with you, but I don't place the blame at the foot of the student. I place the blame in the context and the society that we've created. Thank you, Rockefeller. Thank you to all of these. And this is why I'm so big on this stuff, because you got to understand, what is the underpinnings of the culture? How did this get created? Why is it now so weird for you to take a year to go to work before you decide if college is right for you? Why is it so taboo for you to say, I'm going to take part of this college money and I'm actually going to go study elsewhere rather than going to these 4-year universities out here that are just out here collecting checks? Why is it so weird for me to take $10,000 and go to Hacker Reactor Academy or whatever and learn to code and go straight into a job making $80,000 to $120,000 a year and skip the whole 4-year process? Bruh, it's part of the culture. This is what I run into when it comes to health too, man. It's part of the culture. So it's weird, right? I don't blame these dudes. And at 17-year-olds, you're having them do what? Make that decision with all of that pressure, and then they sign their name to a big debts, not knowing what they're doing. Hey, you got to go in and sign your promissory note. Just read that thing. What students out here going out to read that thing that they're signing their name to? None of them. None of them. And not only that, these corporations and institutions are doing what? A lot easier for you to get a student loan than for you to get a loan to start a business. Right? A lot easier for you to get a student loan than it is for you to go ahead and get a loan to fund some other venture. Right? And it just so happens to be one of the few things you can't actually get away with. Taxing the student loan.
They know what they prepared you for. Coming out of school, they know they prepared you to go to college. They know they didn't prepare you to be a worker or be a business owner. So you're a higher liability to get a business loan, right? You can't get that. But absolutely, they can funnel you into school. We're seeing that, right? Like you hit the nail on the head, Kobi, right? Like I could talk all day about this education system and the indoctrination. And you're right, it's ingrained in our society. It is ingrained in our society. And again, the question you always ask, right? Where does this come from? How do we get to this place? How do we get to this place where, these institutions, it becomes, and honestly, it's only, I think if we do our research, it's probably only the past 40, 50 years or so that these institutions have really become the propaganda machine for what happens after school, right? So, it's really worth diving deep. And you have an answer for it.
Yeah, I got an answer for you. Follow the money.
That's right.
All of them getting paid.
That's right.
Why make student loans function the way they do? Because they are getting paid. All of them getting paid. But guess what? They're just doing their job. Yeah. I'm just doing my job to try to get this student to college so they can have a better life. Word. Like the life you got that you hate so much, right? Like the job you work in that you just working just so you can put your kids back into the same system. And guys, I'm on this here group as the health guy. I really want to point out the parallels here. This is not different than what's happening with our health. It's really not. In fact, the health game, in my opinion, is way worse because it puts us to sleep. It lures us to sleep. And it makes all these other games that they're playing a hell of a lot easier to play.
For them, right? Not for you, not for everyone on the ground. It makes the game easier for the people at the top. I hear you.
Correct. A hell of a lot easier for you to fall into the same traps. All right. And then what? Your parents going through that, they barely have time to think for themselves because they're working so hard just to try to support you and try to do what's right. Right? That they barely have time to think about anything else that's an alternative. Mm-hmm. So
even if your parents don't like it. Like they question. Yeah, so he asked the question of what's the alternative. One thing I do want to point out, at some point, Chris, you must have said something like, how do you get around this system? And JD was like, one hell of a vertical. I thought that was hilarious. And then he asked, what's the alternative? And he brought up a great one, become an amazing athlete and really dedicate yourself to that. However, Kobi's already touched on the fact that just because you're making big bucks as an athlete doesn't mean you have total sovereignty over your body or over your time. Yeah. So you got to watch those contracts. Now, one thing to tie everything back real quick.
Wait, did we answer the question? Right?
I got an answer.
Yeah, I'm working on it too.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
So one thing to tie this all back real quick is we started this whole thing about creating your own economy. Every single person out there that signs a student loan agreement is actually creating an economy that they're already losing in. You're gonna exit college and you're already in the red immediately. And I know people that literally hate their job but do not leave because they're like, how the frick am I going to pay off this multiple 4-digit number that every single month? And it's like, man, I don't know what to say. And it's moments like that that made me so grateful that at least if I didn't have a job, if I didn't have my own business, no matter what, at least my economy is just neutral to start. But when you sign that student loan thing, you're putting yourself in a negative economy. And to answer your question, what's the alternative? Learn as quickly as you can how to make money on your own terms. There's all different types of ways for passive income. This whole drop shipping thing's coming out to be a big deal. You can absolutely go out and be the middleman in any type of purchase. Find a consumer, find a manufacturer, allow the product to get to them sooner through you and take a profit. Start your own business. Whatever knowledge or skill or passion you have, you can monetize it, whatever it is. We are all examples of monetizing knowledge and training and education of our own variety in order to help other people further their lives. You can do it. I'm telling you. And sometimes you would be surprised how little overhead you can actually have in a business. So the options are out there.
Yeah, I would follow that up with, I agree with that. I would follow that up with just retool yourself. I don't think we understand this process enough. Yes, we can get to passive income. Yes, there's lots of ways to make money. But I think the biggest thing that we miss is School, this will tie like a lot of this conversation together. School did not give you the tools you need to succeed on this side of creating your own economy. It didn't give you the tools, right? It gave you the tools of how to be a worker. So now in your adult age, in your adult years, you have to retool yourself and learn new skills that will help you create your own economy. That's it. You'll figure out what your niche is. You'll figure out what the business model is. You'll figure out what the lane is and who, right? Like you'll figure that out. But you got to equip yourself with tools. One of the tools we all use, just us three up here, is communication. It's why we can have a show to communicate to everyone. Communication is a tool. Being able to communicate your ideas, communicate your thoughts to help someone through it, that's a tool. You can retool yourself to get better at communicating, public speaking, actually just one-on-one communicating. There's ways to get better if that is a tool that you feel you might need in order to create your own economy. It might be important. Sales is a tool. Labor type things are tools. Being able to put things together with your hands, being able to put together a home. Like these are tools that we equip ourselves with. School did not equip you with the tools you need to be successful, financially free, run your own economy, take care of your life the way you need to. It didn't do it. Now it's on you. Person listening to us right now, it's on you. That's the mindset we want to get you in. It's the ownership. It's on you. You can retool yourself to become a superhero in any area, right? You can just retool yourself. And that will then get you to a place where you can create your own economy because you add more value out than what comes back in. The money will follow, but you're adding so much value out because you've given yourself a skill set, a toolkit that can help other people. It's a very simple formula. We don't take time to do it. We're distracted. We're lulled to sleep. There's too much noise, right, Kobi? Like that is actually what's happening. The stuff is very simple. Our focus is everywhere else. That's what we need to do.
All right, fellas, I'm going to bring us home here. And I love the questions all popping in and the comments all popping in. If we don't answer them, come back next week. You know what I'm saying? We're always here, always coming here to drop value. I'm going to leave y'all with a few things here. Okay? I'm going to leave you. How do you learn to communicate generally from minority perspective with everything around you is less than? That's we're not gonna touch that today. Sorry, that's a big conversation. Yeah. Maybe JD, maybe that's a conversation for another day. That we'll consider for another topic. But I appreciate you, man. You bring a ton of value to today, and I want to shout out everybody that joined live. Shout you out for providing value today. With your questions and your comments is really why we keep showing up and doing this. It's not just so we can get our thoughts out as well, but it's also to play and bounce off of you guys as well. So thank you. And from the bottom of our hearts, thank you. We could be doing other things, right? So a few things I want to leave. I want to leave with here. If you're ready for the deeper conversation, number one, you got to exit the corporation. The United States, as we know it, is a corporation, whether you realize that or not. That's a much deeper conversation. Okay, it's a corporation. It is what it is. Okay, but that's a conversation a lot of people aren't really ready for. It might be maybe I'll cover that individually on another talk right here because that goes deep. The corporation of the United States of America. That's what it is. Turn it left, turn it right. It's a corporation. Okay.
Well, you have a social security number. It's technically.
Yeah.
I know.
Lord. Yeah. God, don't get us canceled now. God, I hate to do this. But it's a corporation, guys. It is what it is. Okay.
It's your worker number.
Yeah, beautiful work number too. And listen, you can have highly paid servants, highly paid slaves, and it is what it is. It still is what it is. Okay. Gotta know your history, guys. I'm big on this. You gotta know your history. 2, generate your own economy. Generate your own economy. I want to piggyback on that and focus on skills. Okay, not degrees. Focus on skills. Okay, not degrees. Skills.
One more time.
Not degrees. Good Lord, not degrees. Skills. That's how you generate your own economy. Okay. And then be a producer. I actually think there is a difference between generating certain type of economies and others, because at the end of the day, we all move so far from being a producer that we're like working with air. Sure, you can make a lot of money not doing shit. Yeah, that's what they do on Wall Street. And make a lot of money moving a whole lot of dimes around. What are you producing? What are you doing? What is your value to society? Right? To me, that's important. Right? There's a whole lot of people making a whole lot of money that don't produce a damn thing. Not a one. Not a one. I personally don't support or respect that. Personally, that's just me. Okay. So be a producer. And guess what? You kind of have to be weird these days to be a producer. Like, it's not sexy anymore. It's not like, you know, it's hard work. You know, oh God, it's hard work. I'd rather sit here and not do anything and make a lot of money. That's true. Sure, fine, go for it, right? That's cute. But that's what's led us to kind of where we are as a society. People don't produce anymore. Okay. And take pride in that. I think you got to take pride in that, because the world is telling you that, listen, yeah, why would you do all that? Like, that's such a lot of da-da-da-da-da. But see, producers are the source. If we run out of producers, all this phantom work that people are doing doesn't exist. It doesn't exist, because at the end of the day, everybody got to eat. Everybody got a place to live. Everybody, like, at the end of the day, these things are needed. And the further we move from those things, the more issues we have in our health, the more issues we have in our society, the more issues we have in general. So I would say produce something. And that goes back to the degree talk. It's not about degrees, right? The difference in those degrees is who's actually producing. Who is actually a producer? That's what we talk about when you talk about the differences in degrees. But I don't even think it's really degrees. I think it's skills, again, as you go back to it. Because you can drop out of the 4-year university and do micro degrees. I believe that's where we're moving. We're moving, or should be moving, and will be moving, is micro degrees, because these schools are freaking killing us, right? They're robbing our children of their future, actually, is what they're doing. They're yoking them by the neck with debt and non-producer skills before they even get to a chance to play on the board, right? So yeah, I think being a producer, right? If you choose to go to college, that's my tip to you. Look for what is going to make you a producer, okay? Not some phantom, like, whatever, right? I think all that stuff is important, but you can learn that stuff on your own. Pick up a book, my friend. Pick up micro degree, do all that. All that stuff should be learned, right? And if you go further back, you realize that that's what people were doing. They were producers first, and then they utilized their time not doing nonsense, but actually learning and investigating and researching other things, right? Ben Franklin was a producer first. And then he did all this other stuff, all this pontificating and thinking and sociology and all this stuff, right? I think that's incredibly important. And then the last thing I'll say is, ultimately, guys, you got to go in, out. You got to go internal first, right? If you've ever seen, like, imagine a circle with a circle around it, 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 and all of those circles are cups. When you start to fill internal circle and you fill it up, and it overflows, guess what? It starts to fill up the next one, and it overflows and it fills up the next one. If you start with a bigger one, it doesn't go the other way. It only goes internal, out. What I mean by that is you got to start with your mental liberation. Because this matrix thing that we live in, this world of like social agreements, is actually handcuffing us so that we can't be creative with our thought. We can't be creative in terms of how we move around on this earth. So, guys, we try to finish on time here. That's That's all that's all I'll end up with here.
That was
Be a
dope.
producer, generate your own economy, mentally liberate yourself from all the shoulds and all the stuff that's tying us to the status quo, right? And if we did that individually, we start internal, go out. That's how we change the world.
That's it. We'll finish with Aaron saying not having a job and working for himself was possibly some of the best advice he ever received, and it revitalized his life. So again, we're just trying to set you guys free. We're setting you guys free, giving you the tools that you need to get to that good life. And again, we talked about it today. We all had our points on it, but you got to take ownership, right? You got to take control of your income. You got to create your own economy. That is a beginning step to you getting to the life that you want to live. And so thank you for everyone on Instagram that added your comments. We'll continue to get back with you and answer those questions. Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, press that thumbs up, press that subscribe button. We want to see you every single Wednesday. Every Wednesday, we're here giving you the game of how to get to the good life. We're doing our pregame show specifically on Instagram. So you can join us on Instagram, 7 p.m. And then at 8 p.m. Eastern, we're going into the full show on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Instagram. We're just trying to share the knowledge, share the information, so all of you guys can get to that place, living the good life. So until next week, guys, we're signing off for another episode. Enjoy your week. Take care.
Take care, guys.